called upon the conference's third chairman, Antonin Scalia, to help them increase participation in the rulemaking process. Justice Scalia, by the way, recalled this experience when he advocated for our reauthorization before the House Judiciary Committee in 2004. Justice Breyer, testifying at the same hearing, stated complete agreement with his colleague, Justice Scalia, and urged on Congress the many virtues of the then somnolent conference. As you know, we have only come out of that somnolent stage after 14 years, just this year. The justices and other advocates from across the political spectrum caused Congress to reauthorize ACUS, which, given specific new mandates, including the promotion of a more effective public participation and efficiency in the rulemaking process. I want to put up for you our mandate. The first part is what we were in '64 when we were first created. And then in 2004, this additional duties were given to us, promoting public participation and efficiency in rulemaking, which I wanted specifically to mention since that deals with our topic today. New technologies, if properly used, should make public participation in rulemaking, quote, more effective, unquote, as our statutory mandate requires. Still, questions remain for agencies to consider. For example, should a second or third round of comments be arranged in the rulemaking process? Should chat rooms be established or encouraged as part of the process? How will sorting or data mining mechanisms be employed to prevent rulemaking submissions from overwhelming the agency decision process? And harking back to recommendation 68.5, should agencies engage in efforts to ascertain directly information from those outside the process so that the use of technology will not deprive the disadvantaged from participating effectively? This is a danger that we are duty-bound to address in order to ensure that, in our enthusiasm for the world of new media, we diminish and not aggravate inequalities that stem from differential access to information. In Digital Divide, Pippa Norris documents the widespread concern that the internet has the unintended effect of exacerbating inequalities between the information-rich and poor. We must ensure that within our information-rich society, there are no poor, and that all views are seen, heard, or counted. Indeed, preferably all three of those things. I tend to be a cyber optimist precisely because new technology produces new ways to solve old problems. Consider, for example, America Speaks, a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization, which after Katrina brought together poor and dispossessed citizens from 21 locations outside New Orleans to participate in the creation of a unified plan for that beleaguered city. Ultimately, a re-engineered electronic system of rulemaking should increase participation and the public's understanding of the law. The conference will play an essential role in surmounting the logistical challenges that agencies now face in this regard. We can develop better understanding of how this new transparency may alter rulemaking agencies' traditional relationship to Congress and the executive, as well as the courts on review. My favorite idea from the Wiki generation is the notion that the smartest person is not in the room, or presumably in the agencies. But if the agencies can find smart ideas from the crowd and incorporate them into their decision-making, the public, after all, whose ideas these are, will be benefited, assuming, of course, that the definition of public includes those whose technological access is limited or non-existent. The needs and interests of all citizens must remain an essential part of the process of democratic policymaking. The launch of Federal Register 2.20, which I congratulate you, Ray, and your group for doing so well, the online version of the Federal Register, is another seminal event in the administration of our nation's laws. The online edition is not a mere digitization of the paper volumes, but a transforming tool that enables members of the public to be informed of particular actions of government that most interest them. This extraordinary accomplishment will once again kindle a larger and far more complex set of changes in the administrative process that the Federal Register records. Ultimately, there will be one master electronic document recording a rulemaking process from beginning to end, for example, from the enabling statutes through the agency's notice, the public's comments, the final agency action, submission to the Federal Register, compliance with the Congressional Review Act, and a codification into the Code of Federal Regulations. In some ways, Federal Register 2.0 is part of a larger Government 2.0 that is considering the possibilities of making all legal materials, federal, state, and local, open-sourced and available online. Carl Malamud, now a public member of our new conference, and others have inspired this effort with the law.gov concept. The transparency and data.gov movement initiated by President Obama also drives open source developments. What the Federal Register at 75 years has become is a way to view this larger world. The Administrative Conference is fortunate to be part of these fascinating developments. I should tell you, we are led by a council of astute and dedicated public officials and private citizens. And there they are. The left are the public officials, and on the right are the private citizens, named by the President. We intend to participate with these people in the development of our ultimate goals. I want to show you one more slide, and that is in terms of next steps. The conference is developing new technologies to make government more effective. And these new technologies will allow us to grow and improve our participation in government. We are, in President Obama's words, and I wanted to refer back to that because Ray had mentioned it at the top, a public-private partnership designed to make government work better. That's good for two reasons, right? One, because we're public-private, and that's reflected in our membership. And it's also politically balanced, which is another important thing, and tries to be nonpartisan in these days of heightened partisan activity, and we will succeed there. But we are also hoping to make government work better. Now, that's a very generic term, right? It's hard to say, but it is important. We want it to work better. We want to do things that break down barriers, provide opportunities for the public to participate actively, and that is our goal and our challenge, and we will definitely fulfill it, which is why, after all, we put that torch in our seal. So I would like to congratulate you again and also tell everyone who's here that I'm happy to take questions. Thank you.
Folks, if you have a question, just raise your hand. Myself and Allison will pass the microphones to you.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you so
All right.
much. Just a question on what brought you to the framework of outsourcing and sovereignty? I just thought that was an interesting connection with the law and getting the public involved with making government better.
Well, that is a book I wrote 3 years ago, and I suppose the inspiration was about the role of contractors in government. In particular, I was concerned about what's called the private military, which I'm sure you've read a lot about. Oh, okay. All right. So the issue for me, why I called it outsourcing sovereignty, was to say that at some level, the thing that can't be outsourced is sovereignty. And that if contractors who have a perfectly acceptable role to play in government and are necessary in many respects are given too much authority, especially in, I thought, the military setting, then that challenges that proposition. So that was the theme and why I called it what I did. Thank you.
Rick Otis, I'm one of the fathers of the federal docket management system and e-rulemaking. And for those of us that have labored in the field of electronic rulemaking and the use of information technology over the last decade, one of the things I think we've noticed is a certain absence of interest or understanding of the transformational value of information technology on the part of the Congress. And I wonder if you can talk to us a little bit about either what committees or what work you may be doing, committees that have an interest, members that have an interest, or what role you see the Congress playing.
Well, I have to say, I do think there's a lot of interest in Congress. I should say Mike McCarthy, who's our executive director, and I were meeting with some, I guess in Senator Lieberman's office recently, with a committee that's putting together, you may know about revisions to the Federal Advisory Committee Act, anticipating the role of electronic decision-making in that regard. I do think maybe in some ways Congress has to be led along and shown the virtues of some of these new technologies. I'm sure you're doing that from your perspective, and we will from ours. But I think there's a receptivity to the notion that that the electronic age can bring enormous efficiencies, can make government more susceptible to democratic decision-making. After all, rulemaking is only a sub-part of legislation. I mean, there's no reason why many of the developments we might have in electronics with respect to rulemaking couldn't also be provided at the legislative level at some stage. So I do think there's an interest going forward, and we're certainly going to urge that to be greater. Yes. Okay.
To the extent that you want this kind of project of more public participation in rulemaking to extend beyond experts, I guess, the people who presumably are already participating in the process, to really the American public, and especially, as you said, those who could be considered information poor. My question, I guess, is about the first step of that process. I would imagine that the vast majority of the American people aren't even aware of the Federal Register or the CFR or this rulemaking process at all, let alone that they could participate in it. So what are you envisioning, if anything, I guess, in terms of like, I guess, a public relations campaign or an ad campaign, just to try and kind of make people aware of this aspect of federal government, which I think has to come before, obviously, like encouraging them to participate in it?
Sure. Facebook page, that's right. Well, one of the things that, and this is not just, we're just a little agency, but we have grand ambitions, I have to say. But I think it's fair to say the Obama administration has really worked hard on this basic question that you've raised, which is how to make the public aware of the opportunities in government to participate. So, it's one thing to post things, and it's another thing to have people respond. The administration is totally behind this. The Chief Information Officer, Vivek Kundra, leaders in the administration, and we are connecting with them through our agency to help develop that goal. But I do think we should all be responsible. We're all citizens, and we should all be part of this idea that we can find in government ways to make it more open to the public. It is amazing, I should just say, this America Speaks organization, how you can find people